Hello and welcome. Today I am drawing in my sketchbook using oil pastels and colored pencils. But first I want to show you I actually did draw the foot spread like I promised I would. I just couldn't do it when I knew that people were going to be watching. Anyway, I love it when I get to the middle seam and the thread is showing. It's just so nice. My goal for this spread is to draw out 4 characters in the middle, and then on the outsides, I want to imagine like their favorite place to be or like their favorite thing or area and just practice landscapes. So I plan to do the people or creatures with colored pencils and then the landscapes with oil pastels. I have a few creatures in my head that I want to get out, and the very first one is a zombie man, and I think he turns out so cool. I really had a lot of fun. First of all, using this color of colored pencil it unlocks potential that you never know that you have. Using this dark red color is just like, it makes everything that you draw seem just like 3.6 times better. So I love drawing with this colored pencil. These are Prismacolor Premier colored pencils, by the way, and I absolutely love them. They are incredible and they feel really nice. And I feel like the pressure is a little bit lower to use them because they're a little bit cheaper than the other gourmet. It's not gourmet. They're not as expensive compared to the other top of the line pencils. So the pressure just feels a little bit less. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that when I'm feeling really silly, I take out these pencils because these are my silly time pencils. This guy is turning out so cool. I think that he's ending up looking a little bit more like a musician than a zombie. Sometimes they can be the same thing. In any case, I want to draw his favorite scene or his favorite place to be over on the right here. But before I do that, I'm just gonna work on getting all of the colored pencil creatures done while I'm in the mindset. This next creature is intended to be a robot, and I gave him a little cane, and then he turned into like this old man robot, and he just stole my heart. He seemed a little bit sad, and I gave him a necklace with a ring on it. I had already come up with a whole story for him, and he's like this old man robot who just has lived a really hard life. His arm is ripped out, by the way. So clearly he's been in some battles, and I imagine that the ring is like his robot wife's ring, and she is no longer with us. And the whole time that I'm drawing him, I just feel so sad for him. I ended up drawing his insides glowing and his head not glowing, and I think that's because he has some heart left in him, but his brain is totally gone. He is not really with us anymore. He's just kind of living on memories here, and he still has the will to live. He still has that heart that's keeping him going, but maybe, I don't know. I didn't really have a plan when I was drawing his body. I just knew that it couldn't be the same as his head because for some reason if I draw a robot without clothes, it still looks naked, even though Are robots really naked if they don't have clothes? I feel like they don't need clothes. But if he doesn't have clothes, it looks weird and boring. So I gave him a shirt. I don't know what this is. Maybe a dress? A muumuu? I don't know, but I designed it Hawaiian style and I think it's really cool and it fits him perfectly because I don't think he really cares what he looks like anymore. Maybe it reminds him of his wife. By this third guy, I kind of didn't know what to draw anymore. And when that happens, I usually just draw circles and then kind of see where the circle is weird shaped and then run with it. I kind of picture that this is a kid who ends up being a little bit nerdy looking, but like a cool nerdy where he doesn't really care what anyone thinks about him. He just does what he likes to do, which in reality makes him one of the coolest people on the earth. Because if you don't care what anybody thinks about you and you just enjoy yourself, that's the real gift of life. And this kid, he figured it out early. And I really, honestly, just really want to be friends with him. I think that he is going to be one of the coolest people because he knows a lot and he's really enthusiastic about everything that he loves. And enthusiasm is so infectious to me. I absolutely love it when people are enthusiastic about whatever it is they do. You don't know how many videos I've seen of people whittling. I don't know the first thing about whittling, but these people are so amazing and they're so good at it. I don't know what they're talking about half the time, but I am in it and I love them for it. One of my favorite shirts when I was a teenager was, I called it a baseball shirt, and I don't know if that's the real term for it, but it's like when the shirt is white and then the sleeves are like a solid color. I'm pretty sure that those are like baseball shirts. I don't know. You'll have to correct me. Anyway, I gave this kid a shirt to mimic my baseball shirt when I was a teenager, and I think I love it so much more because that was my favorite shirt. Whenever I'm drawing really silly drawings like this, I always like to draw the eyes really buggy or really like hollow. But since this kid has really buggy eyes, I'm creating a story for him in my head as I'm drawing him, and he just gives me the impression that he really is enthusiastic about bugs. He definitely carries around a magnifying glass that can look at bugs really tiny on the sidewalk whenever he's walking, and he also carries around binoculars so that he can see bugs up in trees really far away. And his favorite place to be, I can already picture it, and it is in a garden where butterflies like to be. Those are his favorite creatures to look at and to study are butterflies. Also, none of these guys have hair. That wasn't on purpose until the fourth one when I looked back at the other three and I was like, oh nope, the other three don't have hair. It would look really weird if this one has hair. And I think that's okay. I don't think that you need hair to look cool. Maybe the people on this planet that I'm drawing just don't have hair. Maybe it's not part of their ecosystem. Maybe they're all just such superior beings that they don't need hair anymore. Also, I think his eyes would definitely be touching the glass of these glasses, but we're not going to worry about that. It's all okay. I started off this next sketch trying to create a cyberpunk type robot, but it wasn't working in the way that I really wanted it to, and it didn't really match how the other spread was turning out, so I decided to go with a different design. I didn't know exactly what I was going to draw, but I started out with my circle and just went where the shapes took me. I put the eyes down, and then I decide it kind of looks like an alien, so I color it in green just very gently, and once I have it in green, I give it eyelids, and that's when I could really see what was going on here. And she could too, because I gave her pupils. Of all the characters, I think this one ends up looking the coolest. Maybe that's just because I really like clowns. She turns out to be a clown, and I think it's really, really cool. I really like how clowns can look when they're a little bit like gothic-y, and I'm so tempted to look up a reference of like a gothic-y clown so that I can get it to look as cool as I want it to look. But I know that if I look up a reference, I'm gonna get stuck in making it look exactly like the reference. And I don't wanna do that to myself. I think there's a time and a place to use a reference, but when you're going from imagination, you really have to work on the part of your brain that makes it work, that problem solves, that tries to figure out a solution, because that's when I feel like you really make the solution that's perfect for your picture. I don't know, I feel like that's just what works for me. And just because it works for me doesn't mean that that's how it has to work for you. To each their own. I was so in love with how this one was turning out, but it was really hard for me to try to imagine anything about her personality. All I could think was that she really just likes to be in solitude and doesn't really care to be friends with anybody. And I was trying to figure out any kind of place that would be her favorite place to be, and I just couldn't think of anything. I thought maybe a little bit about her living on like a cliff, kind of like the series of unfortunate events. Isn't there like a house on a cliff at one point in there? And so I kind of thought maybe that would be her like MO. She really just doesn't care that much about people, and maybe a part of that is that she's stuck a little bit in the past. That's probably why maybe she doesn't work as a clown. Maybe at one point she did, and she just can't leave that time in her life. She's stuck in clownhood. I'm trying to decide if I should give her the full clowny collar, like that really ruffly type collar, and I really want to, but I have no idea how to draw that. That's so complicated. But I do give it a shot. After I add in these finishing touches, she is done, and this is how all 4 characters turn out looking, just as a reminder before we move on to the landscapes. I add in one more piece of tape right in the middle to keep the separation nice and crisp and clean. And then oil pastels, here we go. I started off with this bottom corner one because I had a very clear vision of what this little boy would be into, and like I mentioned before, it's going to be a garden scene. I also have to take the wrapper off of my oil pastels, and while I know that's a very common thing to do, it was weird to do it for the first time. But once I did, I was able to use it sideways, and that's so much easier for me to work with because I can get a lot of big shapes down without getting too invested in the details. I took photography when I was in high school, and one thing that I learned was that the S, I don't know what it's called, the S curve? Something about composition and an S, and that's really pleasing to the eye. So I did that to practice. Landscapes are really tricky for me, and it's hard for me to see more than one thing at a time. So to know what I want the whole picture to look like is just an absolute foreign idea to me. I feel confident when I'm drawing one thing, but give me a lot of one things and I overload. So I'm practicing with oil pastels with the intention of doing kind of like a blurry, non-committal landscape just to get comfortable with it. I figured out that I really like when the outside edges of the pictures are darker and more kind of like draw you into the center of the picture. So that was my intention with it, and I think it works. And honestly, of all 4 of the landscapes that I draw, this one is hands down my very favorite one. I think it's because I had like a vision and kind of a plan that I was going off of. So basically what I'm trying to do is create like a very beautiful garden that's full of flowers where butterflies would want to be. So that's where this kid just takes a walk every day, and he spends hours on the cobblestone just soaking up every little piece of life here. Once I get the flowers in, then I start adding in the butterflies, and then this is complete. So as I was trying to picture what these favorite scenes would be, this is really morbid. I was picturing as if they were on their deathbed and they were looking back on their life and they were just reliving their best moment in life. Because initially this was a zombie man, so I was thinking, oh, if he turned into a zombie, then he would be reliving his life as a musician, like his favorite moment. So that's kind of my thought process when I was going through this. I tried to keep this one fairly minimal so that you could see the crowd, but you couldn't make out any faces because it's not really about the crowd. It's about the feeling of being on a stage, or at least that's what it was for this zombie musician man. I think that he is the lead singer, but you'll have to let me know if he gives off like guitarist vibes, maybe drummer. He could definitely be a drummer too. Once I'm done with this microphone, I'm going to be done with the whole piece, and this page is done. Once this page was done, I looked at it and I was so happy about how it was turning out that I looked at these next 2 pieces and I was just paralyzed. I was like, oh my gosh, nothing is going to be as good as those first 2. And I didn't have a clear vision for her. I struggled, as you know, with what her favorite place would be. I decided, since she still is wearing the clown collar, that means that she has to still live also in a clown house. What is that, a tent? A circus tent? She lives in a circus tent still, but she lives in a secluded mountain area where you have to access it by boat. So there we go. There is definitely a spot where I messed up on this, and it's the composition of the whole thing. I wish that I didn't put the circus tent so front and center. I wish I planned it out a little bit better. And I mean, it is what it is. It's not that serious, so I shouldn't beat myself up over it. And ultimately, it's not like the worst thing in the world. I think if I could do this one over again, I would probably put the circus tent up in the mountains and leave the scene exactly how it is, but pop the circus tent like front left mountain. I struggled a lot with the tent, trying to make it look as cool as I think she looks, and I mean, it is what it is. I guess that's what I need to title this one. So there we go. I think of the whole picture, the flag is my favorite part of the whole thing. That one tiny little thing that took about half a second. I will say that I don't like at all how the tent turns out, and at one point I do scrape off everything and then try to start over, and I wouldn't say that it's a lost cause, but I started to get too close to it, so I decided to move on to the other part, adding in the reflections into the water, and I realized that the sky is pink, so the water needs to be pink too. Once I added in the pink water, it all started to kind of connect a little bit more. After I kind of sat with it for a minute, I decided that what I didn't like about it was how dark I made the black pieces of it, so I decided to move on and do a brighter blue to brighten it up a little bit. And I added some more red, got rid of the yellow just a smidge, and then I like it a little bit better now. And ultimately, I think this is just going to be something that I have to live with, and that's okay. It's just a sketch. This is nothing serious. I'm just practicing landscapes here, so I need to take the pressure off and just have fun. This one has got to be done, and I'm moving on to this old man here, and I have to tell you, I sat and stared at this for 20 minutes. I timed it, 20 minutes, before I could figure out what his story is and what his favorite thing in life is. Because of his story with his wife, with his late wife, that I had already decided on for him, it only seemed appropriate to have a vision of him looking out of a window from the inside. I think that's where he spends a lot of his time, because maybe that's what he and his wife used to do a lot together, was people watch and look at the city and try to be a part of it, but they really only wanted to be together, and they're introverts. They only cared about each other. Their love was so strong, but they still wanted to feel like a part of their outside world. So they would look out the window. Maybe that's where they would eat dinner, is right by the window. And they would just look out over the city. One thing that I really liked about this picture was the curtains and how they match his shirt. Since I already kind of thought that maybe this is like his wife's favorite shirt, whether it's her shirt that he's wearing or his shirt that maybe she bought for him, it made sense for the curtains to also be in that same color theme, where she probably just loves purple and blue, honestly. So he keeps her curtains up and looks out past them at the cityscape, and this tree is their favorite tree. They would always talk about it, and they would always just admire this tree from their window. I wanted to darken up the room and I added the black, and I think that maybe I shouldn't have done that, but I wanted the outside to pop a little bit more than the inside, and I finally figured out at the very end that I wanted to add a garden on top of this roof, and I decided, what the heck, let's just make a pool on the other one. And there we go. They're done, so let's take the tape off and see how the whole spread looks all together. Got to clean up a little bit before we show you the final result. And this is Musician on his favorite memory, his favorite day of being on stage. Here is Bug Boy watching butterflies in his favorite garden. Here is Clown Girl with her secluded tent. And Old Man Robot looking out at the cityscape. So there we go. This was so much fun creating these guys and creating a landscape for them, and it was really good practice if nothing else. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you in the next one. Toodaloo!